March 31st, 1968. Do you know what two important events happened on that date? The event receiving the majority of media coverage happened that evening, when Lyndon Johnson told the nation, "I shall not seek another term as your president." An event receiving slightly less attention, but no less noteworthy, is that earlier that same day, Jim Rubillo became a member of NCTM. The juxtaposition of these events is interesting. As one leader announced the abdication of his post, another leader took the first step on a long and illustrious career. It's almost unfathomable. Jim Rubillo has been an NCTM member for over 1.4 billion seconds. During that time, he's given more than 750 presentations. He served on the board of directors for NCTM, for PCTM, and for his local math council. He was a high school teacher, a professor, an administrator, and an executive director. Collectively, these details highlight two important facts. First and foremost, Jim Rubillo has dedicated his career to the improvement of mathematics education. And second, Jim Rubillo is very, very old. During more than 4 decades of service to NCTM, Jim has worn many hats, literally. Here, we see Jim donning a sombrero. Here, we see Jim wearing a chef's hat at an NCTM holiday party. Here, we see Jim sporting a Mardi Gras hat with matching feather boa while leading a staff Mardi Gras parade. And here, we see Jim wearing his favorite hat, which he often did for absolutely no reason. In addition to the many fashionable chapeaux that Jim kept in his office, he also wore many hats figuratively as well. Executive director, board member, department chair, leader, storyteller, author and editor, speaker, mentor, friend. But the hat that Jim wears more often and more proudly than any other? Teacher. Jim hasn't had a traditional classroom for many years, but he still has many students. As Carrie Bolster said, Jim sees the world and everyday life through a creative math lens and shares it with others, in fact, with everyone. Personally, I became a member of the Jim Rubillo fan club 9 years ago when I was hired by NCTM. During the years that Jim was my boss, I learned many things. Early each morning, Jim would stop by my office and tell me a story, and then another, and then another, and then another. 3 hours or so later, he'd say, "Well, I should probably let you get back to work." But he'd always share an interesting math problem before he left. And even though I knew I shouldn't, I'd spend the next several hours thinking about that problem. By mid-afternoon, I'd finally have to force myself to stop. That little sliver at the top represents the portion of each day when I'd actually be doing my job. But I never complained. Jim is a great storyteller, and each of his stories has a moral worth hearing again and again. That may explain why Jim feels compelled to tell the same story over and over. In addition, his stories often include one of his trademark lines, such as, "NCTM is not for profit, not for loss, and not for sale." And there's my personal favorite, which the teachers of Philadelphia have heard so many times, they had it engraved on an award for Jim. "If you don't believe in sampling, the next time you have a blood test, tell them to take it all." In honor of Jim, I'd like to tell you a story, and then I'll leave you with a math problem. The story is this. Before Jim became executive director, visitors to NCTM headquarters were greeted by an unwelcoming "no trespassing" sign at the end of the driveway. During his first week, Jim had that sign removed, and it was replaced by a new one. "Welcome to NCTM, more and better mathematics for all students." The new sign was a small cosmetic change, but its placement was important for staff. Pulling into the parking lot every morning, the sign served as a daily reminder of our reason for coming to work. That story reminds me of another one of Jim's favorite sayings. Incremental improvement over postponed perfection. Jim not only directed but inspired NCTM staff, and he ensured that our daily work helped to foster continual improvement. As Hank Kepner said, NCTM was fortunate to have someone with such passion, an undying commitment, and an understanding of teaching as an executive director. Before I go, I promised you a math problem, and here it is. What percentage of the NCTM staff loved working for Jim? If you said anything other than 100%, you'd be mistaken. Jim is intelligent, charismatic, and dedicated to the council. Those of us on staff loved him, and we think he's an outstanding choice for the Lifetime Achievement Award. In his letter of support for Jim, Richard Laudholt summed it up this way: Jim Rubillo is a gentleman, well liked and respected. It would be an honor for the council to have Jim receive this award. Jim, you're an inspiration, and I can't think of anyone who is more deserving of this recognition. Congratulations on a lifetime of many wonderful achievements.